Joining us now is Congressman James Combe, a Republican from Kentucky and ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on. So we had this 11th hour proposal that seemed to be brokered by France, that there would be a meeting between the President of the United States and the President of Russia, condition only if you haven't invaded Ukraine. Russia intel seems to push back on that. How did you read that situation and that information?
Well, unfortunately, President Biden's playing from a hand of weakness here. It all started with the debacle in Afghanistan. Vladimir Putin has no fear whatsoever of America, of America's military, of any type of sanctions from Joe Biden. I always think it's good to talk. President Trump was criticized when he met with Kim Jong-un. I think it's always good to talk. But my concern is, what kind of deal is Joe Biden going to give Vladimir Putin for not invading Ukraine? He's not supposed to invade Ukraine, and I don't think there should be any type of incentives offered by Joe Biden for Vladimir Putin to simply behave like a normal leader of a country.
Yeah, again, too, Congressman, following this story, this morning, New York Times was reporting that Russia met with their security officials, an unscheduled meeting with his security officials. Also, some reports coming in that, hey, maybe Putin does not agree to these full terms just yet. So, again, it's back into this range of a guessing game of, is he going to invade? Is he not? The only thing we know are facts or what U.S. intel tells us. And today we had NSA Jake Sullivan saying that an invasion could happen in the coming hours or even days. Are you confused by all the information that seems to come out?
I'm confused. You have to remember, I don't have a lot of confidence in the American intelligence community. We've talked about that a number of times on Newsmax. But at the end of the day, if you look at what Joe Biden did on day one of his presidency with respect to energy policy, it gave Russia the upper hand. And if you look at why are we as concerned as we are about Russia invading Ukraine, it's all about oil prices. The same thing that happened to us with Iraq. When Bush was president, we were concerned about when Iraq invaded Kuwait, what it would do to oil prices. So anytime you have an administration that has an energy policy as bad as Biden's or as bad as Bill Clinton's was, and it puts American energy at a competitive disadvantage, it helps our enemies. In the 90s, our enemies were the Middle East. Now, today, our enemy is Russia, the second biggest oil producer in the world. So this all stems from oil prices. And unfortunately, Joe Biden's put us in a disadvantage here because Vladimir Putin knows if oil prices go to $5 or $6 a gallon, it's going to cripple the American economy.
I want to ask you about this, too, a developing story, or at least part of it. A U.S. ambassador now issuing a warning about Russia potentially committing human rights abuses against Ukrainians following an invasion. It was in a letter published in the Washington Post, and it was one of the UN ambassadors writing this in part, quote, "We have credible information that indicates Russian forces are creating lists of identified Ukrainians to be killed or sent to camps following a military occupation," end quote. Again, that is U.S. ambassador there at the UN putting that out. Now we have a kill list that we've supposedly announced, according to a U.S. official. How bad is this getting?
It's bad, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that weren't true. Vladimir Putin has a history of jailing and torturing his political enemies. He has a history of his political enemies simply disappearing. Vladimir Putin is a bad person. The fact that we're having to let France negotiate a meeting between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin is very disappointing, but not surprising given the first year of the Biden administration. So again, when Joe Biden meets with Vladimir Putin or talks to Vladimir Putin on the phone, I hope that he's not trying to offer him any type of incentive from the taxpayers of the United States of America for not invading Ukraine, because Putin still commits human rights abuses every day, and Russia still is involved in most of the cyber attacks that happen to American businesses and our government in the United States every day.
Yeah, again, if that meeting happens, and there are other reports that Putin possibly will not agree, we will see if that news breaks. We'll bring it to you. Congressman James Comer joining us live. Congressman, thank you. We appreciate your time.